Good afternoon, Tube Snake Boogie. Here I am with the 12th installment of Bill 69, which was originally blogged about back on November 8th of 2019, so not all that long ago, half year or whatever it's been. Uh, this one was a pretty familiar one for the most part. It started off with a franchise we knew about, never really played, followed by two games that were staples in our collection and our early gaming years when we were kids. So, sorry, I got some sort of. God, it's getting colder again, and now my hands are drying out again. It's like a brief taste of summer, and then all of a sudden it's winter again. Not a happy camper about that. But anyways, let's get on to it. The first game in this trifecta of games was a Super Nintendo from the Super Nintendo release from the year 1993. It was a Capcom game, which is A+, had that going for it. And it is called Final Fight 2. Now, we skipped the original Final Fight game when going into this franchise because the first Final Fight game, from what we could understand, was just one player, whereas the second one is two players. So we wanted to do something two player, and so that's why we decided to start with number 2, although I'm sure at some point we'll probably go back and play the first one, whether it'll show up in Bill 69 or not. Either way, we probably will play it at some point. So this was a game that Civ had downloaded on his machine, and the story revolving around it, you kind of have to go back to the first game. So in the first game, there was this... what were they called? The Mad Gear Gang that were terrorizing Metro City. And so the heroes, a trio of heroes, had to set out and save Metro City from this Mad Gear Gang and set things to rights. So in this second installment, one of the heroes from that adventure, Mike Hagar, is now the mayor of Metro City and is kind of picking up the pieces after this battle. But then one day he learns that one of the other fighters on that original adventure, named Guy, his fiance has been kidnapped along with her father by the Mad Gear Gang, who are kind of reorganizing and making a second attempt at whatever their ultimate aim is here. And so he finds out from this Guy's fiance, whose name is Rena, finds out from her sister Mackie that this abduction has taken place, and so she asks him, like, can you help? So Mike's like, let's do this again. So he enlists the help of his friend Carlos, and then Mackie also, or Makey, I don't know how you say it, she comes along for the adventure as well. So you have your choice of these three characters in this adventure. So you set out into the city or actually you go across the globe. There is, I believe, 6 total levels to the game. You are in Hong Kong, then France, then Holland, then England, Italy, and finally Japan, I think is the last one. So you just have to bust through these 6 levels, face a boss at the end of it. There's nothing special about the bosses. I mean, they're bigger and badder enemies than you face throughout the game, but there's no weird ones that you get in a lot of games. They're just other fighters that you have to face. And along the way, there's a number of pickups. There's different types of food that will restore your energy to different levels, like donuts, coffee, lobsters, that sort of thing. And you can get these by smashing environmental objects, like crates and oil drums and stuff like that. And there are other pickups too that are kind of monetary in theme. So there's gold bars, stereos, shoes. You collect these and you gain points, and those points will get you extra lives. And then there's also environmental weapons that you can use as well, like boards and knives and stuff like that to help defeat your enemies. So yeah, you make it through the 6 levels, defeat all the bosses, and defeat the Mad Gear Gang again, and you've saved the day. This is just one of those side-scrolling beat-em-up kind of games, kind of like Golden Axe, Double Dragon, and it's just, I love games where there's lots of environmental interactivity going on, like when you can pick up dropped weapons or weird environmental objects to use as a weapon. I really like that feature in games when they have stuff like that. It just lends a lot of you can save yourself all of a sudden if you're low on energy and you're facing a couple final enemies in a level, but you get a knife all of a sudden, and then boom, one guy's gone out of the way. Like, it can really change the fate of the gameplay, both for and against you, and can just also add a lot of hilarity to games as well. So on top of that, the fighters in these games, they have the standard moves. You know, they can duck, they can jump, they can punch, they can kick, and then depending on whether you're jumping or ducking or just standing regular, your kicks and punches will vary depending on what position your fighter's in. And then of course you can grab guys and do different throws and stuff like that too. So overall, for our first introduction to this series, it's an easy, fast game to play, but it's a lot of fun. Super fun factor on it. Of course, being a Capcom game, it looks amazing and sounds amazing, and it's just so much fun. So that was the first game in this entry. These next two, like I said, are staples, huge staples in our early gaming lives. The second game that we completed in this trifecta was released in 1988 on the NES by Konami, and it is the original Contra. I kind of glossed over the original Contra storyline when I did the video about when we completed Super C. A little more in-depth story on the original Contra is that in the 1950s, some sort of weird object fell to Earth in the Amazon jungle from space, and it was just kind of ignored and written off as a insignificant kind of happenstance. But you know, over 30 years later, it's the 1980s, and something has arisen from this wreckage. There is a being who calls himself Red Falcon, and he has taken the aliens and the alien tech that was within this object that crashed from space, and has created like an army, and he's looking at global domination. So your job is to come in as Bill and Lance, two members of the Elite Contra Corps, and put an end to this threat. So in Contra, there's 8 levels. You start in the jungle, then you hit a base, then you go to a waterfall, then you hit another base, then you go to a frozen area, then this energy zone it's called, and then a hangar, and then the aliens lair. Most of the levels are side-scrolling or screen-climbing, platforming adventures, but the 2 base levels that are early in the game are more top-down, move-forward kind of levels that alter the gameplay a little bit, although you can still do the same things. You can shoot, you can jump, you can duck, everything remains the same. It's just a different kind of perspective and a different objective, I guess, in the level as well. And at the end of each level, there will be a boss. Sometimes they're different types of aliens, but most time there's some sort of tech that is alien in nature. It's whether it's a big turret or base or something like that, or it's an alien enhanced with tech. It's all based in this alien kind of origins of this crash sort of thing. So along the way, like I said, there's you can duck, you can jump, you can shoot, and that's basically all there is to this game. There's not any special weapons, there's no special moves or moves when you get close to an enemy. It's just jump, duck, shoot, and move. That's all it is. You can aim your weapon in all different 8 directions, so you can cover the screen from wherever you are. And that's important because Contra is one of those games where there's just teams and reams of enemies on the screen all at once, and there's bullets flying everywhere, so you really want to just keep your hand on that trigger button and shoot everywhere. And aiding in that is that there are some pickups in this game that you can get, and most of them are weapons focused. There's 4. You just start off with a single shot kind of gun, but there's 4 different pickups for weapons you can get. And the pickups in this game take the form of like military guys when they get the wings or whatever on their jackets or whatever. They look like those things, and they float across the top of the screen, and you have to shoot them down. And then you'll know what type of pickup it is by the letter that's in the middle of it. So for the weapons pickups, there's M, which is a rapid fire machine gun, L, which is a laser, F, which is a like flamethrower fire blaster sort of thing, and then S, which is the ultimate, everybody's favorite weapon in this game, spreader, which just shoots out in all different directions and covers so much. It's the ultimate weapon in this game. The 2 next ones are also one's weapon in nature. It's R for rapid fire. So no matter which weapon you have equipped, it will increase the rate of fire for that weapon. And then the other one, B, is just it's like a invulnerability temporarily sort of thing, so you can run into guys or take bullets and not get damaged and die. And it's one hit and you're dead sort of thing. So so there's no health bars or anything like that. It's just you get hit, you die, you get your next man sort of thing. So, and by gaining points by killing enemies, you you can get free men sort of thing. So it is important to, and you do have a limited amount of continues, so it's important to kill everybody that you see just to keep yourself alive, but not also to get free men, and so you can continue your adventure and hopefully get through the rest of the game. And then the only other pickup is just, it's a red falcon logo in the middle of this thing, and it's one of those invaluable kill all enemies on the screen things. So as soon as you land on it, it just eradicates everybody on the screen. So very handy, but also very rare. So yeah, so you blast through all of these levels and defeat Red Falcon in the end, and you have saved the world and beaten Contra. Being a Konami game, of course, it has a distinct look, just like Capcom games have their own look and feel and sound. Konami's very much the same, and like I've said before, after Capcom, Konami's probably the next developer that is my favorite, and Contra is kind of one of their staple signature games. It's if you don't know Contra, I'd have to question your judgment in gaming tendencies, but if you haven't, go play it, and then all of its sequels as well. They're hard as hell, and that's one thing that kind of surprises me. As kids, we always thought there was this feeling that Contra was an easy game, but we never even got to within a lick of getting to the end guy. I think the first couple levels maybe you can get through fairly easily, but it does get hard as it goes on, and it gets like hard. And considering you have a limited amount of continues and it's so easy to die in this game, you really have to be giving her hell to get through it. So super fun game, highly recommend it to anybody who's a fan of gaming. Go out and play it, you won't regret it. Now, the last game in this series here is a personal favorite of mine, also released for the NES in 1988, just like Contra was, by a company called Trade West. This game was based on an arcade game, and as a kid, when I used to go to the arcade, there was a number of franchises that I kind of would always go to. Gauntlet was a huge one. I love Bad Dudes. Later on, there came, like, the Ninja Turtles arcade game, and then Cruisin' USA came a bit later. But this one is perhaps the king of them all that started kind of arcade gaming for me, and it is Double Dragon. When an arcade game gets ported to a home console like that, a lot of times there's some major differences, and I know that there was between the arcade game and the console game. I don't remember exactly what, because it's been so long since I've played the arcade game, but I remember getting Double Dragon, the NES cartridge, not long after we'd moved into the house I grew up in throughout the end of public school and into high school and stuff, and it was a September day, so we'd just gotten back into school. My buddy Siv wasn't there for some reason, but his older brother Josh was. And I remember opening the present, and it was Double Dragon, and we were having cake as well. And we didn't want to not eat the cake because it's so tasty, but we literally were like, just get it in you. It was like, because after that, we just raced upstairs and played Double Dragon the rest of the day and never came down. Like, we didn't break 1 minute. It was just one of those games that is so fun and is so iconic, and playing it is just joy, so I still remember the day I got that game and how excited me and my friend got to play it, and it was a staple for forever afterwards. We always played it, and it was one of those games that we always pulled out at some point whenever my friends were over, sort of thing. So, but anyways, enough with the memories. The game itself, the story is that there's these twin brothers, Billy and Jimmy Lee, both martial arts masters. Billy is a good guy, Jimmy's a bad guy. Jimmy leads the Black Warriors, a gang of thugs and whatever that are out to, just cause pain and chaos for anybody. And one day they walk down the city streets, they see Billy's girlfriend Marion, they slug her in the gut, sling her over their shoulders, and make off with her in a kidnapping. So then Billy's like, well, I guess I have to go get her back. So then he braves the Black Warriors gang, and in an effort to get her back and defeat his brother. So the game itself seems pretty short because there's only 4 missions in it. Each one gets a little consecutively longer and harder than the one that comes before it. But considering you only have 3 lives, no continues, and there's no health pickups at all, it's very difficult. It is very, very difficult. So you start off in the city streets, and then you move to a construction zone, and then you're in the middle of like a forest that gives way to a mountain that you go inside of, and then the last level is your approach to Jimmy's Black Warriors hideout, and then once you're inside of it and confront all the bosses at the end of it. So along the way you face many different types of enemies who all have different names. There's Will, Linda, Roper, and then once you beat a boss at the end of each of these levels, they then become regular occurring characters throughout the rest of the game. So at the end of the first level in the city streets, it's the boss is a Bobo, who's this big hulking beast of a man with a giant round head. Pretty iconic and pretty hilarious. We always laugh when we get to fight a Bobos. And the second level at the construction site, at the end of it, it's a martial arts master named Chin. So after each of those guys are beaten, they then become regular characters in the game. The end of the third mission, there isn't a boss per se. You just have to get through this level and get to the fourth mission where you're approaching the enemy's hideout. And in this level, there's more environmental dangers than there are in the first two. There's like these falling stalactites or stalagmites, whatever the ones on top are. These kind of platforms you have to jump across that there's just an open chasm beneath them, sort of thing. So it's a little more obstacle course with some enemies thrown in rather than just all enemies and then a boss sort of thing. And then in the fourth mission, once you make it to the end of it, you have to face kind of a boss rush in a way. You have to fight, I think, 4 pairs of regular characters in the game, which I think are Ropers, Lindas, Abobos, and Chins. I think you have to fight those 4 pairs. And then after them, this dude that just is... You never see him at all in the game until this part. He comes out, he's this weird looking guy with a machine gun, so then you got a guy firing a gun at you. You have to beat him. And then once you're able to beat him, then you face Jimmy Lee in the final fight, and once you beat him, you've beaten the game, rescued Marion, and saved the day, sort of thing. So during the levels, like I said, there's no health pickups. There are a couple things to make note of, though. There's lots of environmental objects that you can use as weapons. Boxes and oil drums, you can throw those at your enemies, and then your enemies will also sometimes be carrying weapons, which you can, once you attack them and get them to drop them, you can use them yourself. The baseball bats are one of my favorites, and also the knives. Once you hit somebody with a knife full on in the face and get the little blood emoji, it's a pretty satisfying thing because it's like a one-hit kill, right? So that can save your bacon in a lot of cases. And the other thing to make note of, it's not a pickup per se, but Double Dragon is a game that's based a lot on points. So killing everybody and killing them well, different moves will earn you different amounts of points. So if you kill a guy with the most amount of with the moves that give you the most amount of points, the higher you'll level up, because at certain levels, when you hit certain point targets, Billy will earn a new move. So he starts basically with just a punch, a kick, and just a basic jump. He can't do anything else. As you move along and hit these different points targets, you'll add a jump kick. You will add the ability to grab and then throw your enemy and also knee them in the head. Once they're down on the ground and low in health, you can squat on top of them and then finish them off with a couple of face slaps. And some other ones, this like jumping roundhouse jump kick thing that is really hard to pull off, but it does a lot of damage. And then some other things too, I forget all of them. But as you go, the sooner you level up, the easier a time you're going to have, and probably the less health and men you're going to lose along the way. So yeah, so you just basically hone your skills, use everything you can to your advantage, and hopefully make it through. And it's not only hard getting through the game, but then you got that stupid boss rush at the end, which is downright terrifying. So, but we've beaten it a few times in our lifetime. Obviously, most recently this one here for this round, but it is no easy challenge. Final Fight 2 was very easy. Contra and Double Dragon are not. So be warned. Play them, but be warned. So yeah, so that's it. A couple more staples and a new game to the mix in the 12th installment of Bill 69. So Monday's blog will be my last for now, because that is kind of where we are caught up to at the moment. So stay tuned for that. But after that, it'll probably be a long time coming, like I said, till the next one, due to all the circumstances in the world right now. But until Monday or earlier with some other blogs, or blogs, vlogs. We will bid you adieu and have a great weekend.